All right. Members of Congress return to Washington tomorrow after their 4th of July holiday break. And House Speaker John Boehner wants them to sue President Obama. The president has already called the idea a stunt, but today in an exclusive opinion article on CNN.com, the speaker was firm, writing this, quote, "The president has circumvented the American people and their elected representatives through executive action, changing and creating his own laws and excusing himself from enforcing statutes he is sworn to uphold, at times even boasting about his willingness to do it, as if daring the American people to stop him. That's why later this month we will bring legislation to the House floor that would authorize the House of Representatives to file suit in an effort to compel President Obama to follow his oath of office and faithfully execute the laws of our country." End quote. That from House Speaker John Boehner in a CNN.com op-ed. All right, let's bring in our political panel. Sally Kohn, a CNN political commentator who leans left, and Lenny McAllister is a conservative radio talk show host. Welcome to both of you.
Nice to see you.
All right, so first, before I unleash the two of you, Sally, you actually wrote a rebuttal on CNN.com to the speaker, and in part, you write, quote, "With all due respect, Speaker Boehner, it's as though the fog of extreme partisanship that has colored your dealings with President Obama since day one has suddenly turned into a full-on fever of irrationality. Think about this for just a second. House Republicans are using taxpayer dollars to fund a lawsuit against a president who has literally done not only what every president before him has done, but has done it less often, and is doing so now only because House Republicans repeatedly refuse to even vote on legislation, let alone pass anything." Woo! I can just see the smoke and the fire coming off your fingertips as you were writing that. So, Sally, you are so fired up about this, comparing the president's 182 executive orders to his predecessors, which on average are more than 200 of executive orders that are used. What's with this Dear John letter, so to speak?
Well, you know, look, anyone who doesn't think that this lawsuit, funded with taxpayer dollars, is anything other than a desperate and partisan political stunt just isn't paying attention. And you know, basically, look, since President Obama took office, House Republicans have said from day one, we're not going to pass any laws. We're not going to do anything to help to work with this president for the good of the country. We're not going to compromise at all. All we're going to do is try and throw up roadblocks. And look, the president, the Democrats continue to do well electorally, and so Republicans are just going to keep stonewalling, keep causing problems, and frankly, keep making the American people and our democracy suffer. This is unprecedented, it's sick, and it's sad.
So, Lenny, your response, as she says, it's unprecedented, sick, and sad, calling it a partisan stunt. What do you say?
I would not have sued the president in this capacity, but Speaker Boehner has a point. I think people tend to forget that one of the few times that President Obama openly tried to work with the Republicans was after the Tea Party took over in 2010 during the lame duck session. And guess what happened? We got stuff done. We got legislation passed, including Don't Ask, Don't Tell being repealed, including the START Treaty going through with over 67 senators passing it, as well as an extension of tax cuts that President Obama turned around and immediately railed against no more than 2 months after he signed it into law. So this back and forth is a bipartisan phenomenon that is unfortunate on both sides. Now, in regards to the lawsuit, there's a point to it. I don't know if I would have necessarily pushed this agenda, but when you have President Obama pushing his health care legislation and then only enforcing the parts that he wants to enforce while holding it and holding other people accountable on other aspects of it, yes, there is a point of frustration that should be addressed. With a lawsuit, maybe not, but should it be addressed? Is there a problem? Absolutely.
But that's what presidents do. That's what presidents have done time immemorial. That is their constitutional duty.
It's not their constitutional duty, Sally.
They not only have executive authority, they have constitutional duty, as sanctioned by the Supreme Court, to determine the prioritization and implementation of laws. That's what presidents do. Period.
At the same exact time, you also have a Supreme Court that seems to repeatedly slap this president on the hand and say you are overreaching. You are overreaching. And we've seen some some decisions that have come down in a unanimous fashion that said,
Lenny, so
Mr. President, you're going a little too far.
Look, so that's interesting. So first of all, the Supreme Court has also slapped down Congress and presidents for time immemorial. That's how our three branches work. But it is generally not the job of Congress to determine the constitutionality of the actions of the president. That is the job of the Supreme Court. I mean, look, this is just...
Which is why they're going to file a lawsuit to let the Supreme Court decide this.
And I'll bet you $100 they don't even get past the trial level because they don't have standing. Look, this is such puppet theatrics. Again, every president ever has done this. This is what presidents do. This is how executive authority works. We want to talk about the abuse of it. Let's talk about George W. Bush. Dick Cheney said that he actually thinks the executive authority of the president should be unchallenged. Unchallenged,
right? Which was wrong as well. Which was absolutely wrong as well.
But Republicans just don't like it. And because
Sally,
they can't
he's not operating within the law of Obamacare.
They just throw tantrums. They're throwing a tantrum. That's what this is.
Sally, even in regards to Obamacare, he's not operating within the law of that. Now, I did concede at the initial point I probably wouldn't have gone down this path. But do they have a point in regards to bringing up this frustration with this president picking and choosing the way he wants to interpret law moving forward? Absolutely. There's a point to this. Maybe it shouldn't be a lawsuit, but the Republicans do have a point in regards to how this president has enacted his presidential authority over the years.
Again, so Lenny, that disregards history from the time of the founding of our country.
So
it doesn't mean that other presidents haven't made the same mistake. Now, I want to be clear about that, Sally and Fred. It doesn't mean that the other 43 presidents have not made the same exact mistake. Bush has. FDR tried to pack the courts. Pardon me?
This is just the one we sue.
People had a fit about FDR packing the courts in the 30s, for example. No, part of the reason why you would pull a political stunt like this, if you want to call it a political stunt, is because you're trying to rally a base in a midterm election. You have Twitter, social media out there, and you know that you can rally a base in a way that you could not do 10 to 20 years ago.
Is that what this lawsuit will help propel, Lenny?
I think it will rally the base. Again, is this something that I would have done politically? Probably not. Do I see why they did it politically? I absolutely do, and I know what effect this is going to have. This is from the same type of complaints that people in the Republican base have had about this president for quite some time, and it did rally the troops in 2010. So this, in some regards, sadly, is not a surprise for 2014.
So then, Sally, is this can this really be advantageous, whether it be for Republicans, or can it potentially, shoot the Republicans in the foot, or even, Speaker Boehner in the foot by even pursuing a lawsuit, especially if it's not able to move forward?
Right. Well, this is sort of the massive conundrum of the modern Republican Party, right? They're doing things, not just this obstructionism in Congress, which the American people roundly reject, right? But they're also the things they are trying to pass. What are we on the 50th attempt to repeal Obamacare, all of the anti-choice laws that are trying to restrict the freedoms of women. All of these things are making the Republicans even less popular with the American people. Going into the midterm elections and beyond, their only strategy, it seems to be, is to try and sort of further rally the very tiny but fervent base of Republicans, because they know they can't win the mainstream of America.
And then final word on that, Lenny, is that your concern that instead of this hurting the president, if that is what, House Speaker's, objective is here, that instead it really hurts the party, the base?
That's the risk that they're taking, but it's amazing how Democrats and liberals are looking for this bipartisanship that was not there in 2009 when President Obama told the Republicans, hey, I won, deal with it. And there was no compromise with the Republicans in 2009 or 2010 when Obamacare was being put into place with negotiations with Democrats, and all the political capital from this president was spent in 2 years.
We will end it there. Lenny McAllister, Sally Kohn, thanks to both of you. Appreciate it.
God bless you ladies very much.